Shut up! The Footy's on Triple M!
Now on Triple M Footy.
Too strong, too good.
This is the Midweek Rub.
That is just brilliant.
How do you like those apples?
Triple M rocks footy.
Yes, hello. Welcome to another edition of Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, exclusive on the Listener app. And as always, we have the regular crew. Daisy, after having a week off last week to go play some golf, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm back. Well, that wasn't the reason I didn't make it last week. I got moved around because Duck had a meeting and I couldn't change mine. So
Yeah, sorry about that.
no, it's completely fine. I got Rissol because you're the talent and I'm just filling in. So
Damo, welcome to you.
Hey, Joey, and we did get a lesson last week, didn't we? The world revolves around Duck. And if it doesn't, he just makes sure it does.
Well, once
It
again,
does
Duck's
not.
come in wearing a suit and he's told us to hurry up and get the show done because he's pretending he's got another meeting to go to. I think just so he can get out of here within half
I'm
an
sick
hour.
of coming
Hello,
in
Duck.
and looking at Damo. G'day, gentlemen, and looking so sharp. So I thought I'd better try to match him.
Who pulls off better? Both got
Daisy.
white shirts and a
Daisy.
jacket.
The difference is Damo works. That's the difference. That's why it doesn't quite work.
Very good.
I'm
very
also
good.
worried too because I just noticed, Duck, you grabbed Joey 1
Yep.
minute before we just hit
Yeah.
record on this. And that worries me too because you haven't done that all year, as in prepared
Well,
something.
that
So
I might bugger it up if I put a bit of preparation in.
We're looking forward to that. Duck's brought something to the table. Damo, I think you'll enjoy it too a bit later on. We'll get to your news shortly. But more COVID news, but this time not without the footy yet, but just in South Australia, Daisy. It looks like South Australia might go into a lockdown, and it poses the question, us in Victoria, do you feel sorry for the other states at the moment?
well, it's hard to feel sorry for them because I feel that some point when we when we were in lockdown, no one gave a single stuff. We were
Some
just
people
bad.
did.
No, hardly anyone. So it was just bad luck. Deal with it yourselves. And now they're all experiencing it for the first time. They're understanding what a lockdown is and how it looks. Some of them are 3-day lockdowns. Like, please, come on. We were locked down for 3/4 of the year. So I feel sorry for the people who are going to lose, obviously, work and things like that. But as a whole, as to what we've experienced, as to what they're going through, there's not a whole lot of compassion coming from this guy.
No,
be better than
come
that,
on.
Daisy.
Yeah,
But you're
exactly.
better than that.
Come
Duck,
on.
you're a
I
bit
know
more
there's a heart
empathetic.
inside that body.
I feel
Duck,
sorry.
you're more empathetic.
I feel sorry for the whole country. I feel sorry for everyone in Australia right now. We're the lucky country. We're very lucky to have been brought up in this fantastic place. Great place to grow up. But right now, we are the laughing stock.
Yeah.
The fact that we cannot get we've had the lowest cases, more than no one in ICU. No one right now. Well, I know we had a period there where we had a lot of stuff going on, but right now there's nothing going on and we're locking states down. It is ridiculous. We've locked down right now. There's over half our population in lockdown. That is just, it's just ridiculous.
And the other effects it's having too on other people, mental health and all those sorts of things. Quite
I just see it.
significant.
You just see it from day to day.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
The way the Sydney people, and I'm not sort of just taking the mickey out of mental health and people losing jobs, of course, that's a very serious part. But the way we've approached it, we get put into a lockdown, we get 60,000 tests, then you see Sydney are into a lockdown or thereabouts.
15,000.
And they've got hundreds of people at Coogee Beach, they're still going out to Bondi. So I just think in terms of how seriously we've taken it and how we've then been treated on the back of it and how they've almost laughed, locked the border, said, bad luck, you just keep it down there. It's a little bit of just a reminder to them that it does move pretty quickly.
And it's causing chaos to the footy fixture, Damo.
Yeah.
That's the one little tiny part of it, but we'll get all that after this. We'll do the news and get the latest on the COVID situation. But Daisy, as always, you'd like to bring to the table at the start, the hero of the week.
Daisy's hero of the round.
Puts you in a good mood, that.
It does.
He doesn't it? Something about.
Good juju.
Really
Just
good.
get you up
Yeah.
and about. And the hero this week, well, it was Saturday night footy. The start of that game, of course, Essendon doing their bit for Challenge, tackling childhood cancer, the game they do each year. And I'm not sure if you saw the start of that game, but Dyson Heppel and Maxi Gorm went out. Young Harrison, a young kid with cancer, was there. He got to toss the coin. Now, the boys, Maxi got out to the middle first and just genuine, that's a big clash for those footy clubs, had a genuine chat with the young fella, like, just forget everything that goes on in the world, just in that moment, what they were able to do for the young kid. Also, Dyson as well. Toss the coin, talk to him, and then at the end of it, Maxi was going to walk off, and Hep calls him back and he goes, mate, can we get a flick with the young kid? So just every now and then we get a good reminder in our sport that there's a lot more to it than just being football.
You know what, Daisy? Well said. Because of COVID, I guess charities like Challenge and Dave Rogers, who heads up Challenge, ripping bloke. their funding has obviously
dried up.
a lot because of everything else that's gone on in the world, and they need it because there's a lot of kids out there, and it's about supporting families. It's about supporting their families as well, because how often a little child gets sick and then the parents split up because of it and all sorts of things. So they need support in and around the families. He does a great job, Dave Rogers. So that's a ripper, mate.
And well done to the Essendon Footy Club, because usually there's 22 kids who get to go out with the players, walk in hand in hand. They couldn't do that, so they did that virtually by Skype this year as well. So they still made it inclusive to everyone. So to the Essendon Footy Club, to challenge to everyone involved in that one, you are my hero of the week.
Well said, Daisy.
Well done,
I reckon we
Daisy.
could do more of that going forward, because the toss of the coin, we show it, but no one really cares who wins the toss, do we? It doesn't matter which way we go. Most of the time, there's no wins.
I did when I tossed it 180 on time.
Yeah. Hey,
well
Damo,
done.
we're going to get to the footy news. Obviously, a lot of COVID stuff, but I want to ask you about the Collingwood coaching search as well, and in particular, one name that keeps bobbing up.
Look, I just keep feeling, and I keep hearing too, that Sam Mitchell's up to his eyeballs in a chance at that job. And while I keep saying about this about Sam, he's not everyone's cup of tea in the way he carries himself. And he is a very different person, isn't he, in the AFL system? He's not liked by everyone, but he doesn't care. And I feel, while Alistair Clarkson, even his own coach, Duck, feels he's not quite experienced enough to take on a senior job, I go back to the last year he played in 2017 when he was an on-field coach for the West Coast Eagles. He retired at the end of that year, helped them win the premiership off the field as an assistant coach the next year, and then he's been back in the system now for 3 more seasons, coaching in his own right.
It's a little bit intriguing, me hearing you say that, because I don't know much about Sam. I've met him numerous times, but the fact that you said he's not everyone's cup of tea, and I reckon senior coaching is about relationships, so clearly it's about how you get on. I'd argue Bucks' first 5 years wasn't great, 6 years or whatever, it wasn't great because of that reason. He thought everyone had to be like him. So given that we've only got a very small sample size, and I know I said this a number of weeks ago, why are you so convinced that he's able to go into a new club like Collingwood and build relationships with the likes of Darcy Moore and obviously Pendlebury probably for another year or so, I would suggest, and Sidebottom and DeGoey and all these guys? What makes you so confident that he would be able to do that?
I'm not saying I'm confident he could do it. I'm saying he's up to his eyeballs in their considerations. There's obviously a relationship of significance with Graham Wright, who, forget all the other names on that coaching subcommittee, he's the main man on it. He's not going to be the only voice, obviously, but he's going to steer the interviews, I would think, and make the initial approaches now that he can.
And
with some clean air.
Brad Scott's been thrown up.
Sam McClure reported that the other day that Brad Scott too has been approached. I don't have a read on whether he's going to engage in those conversations, but he too's got a relationship with the Collingwood Footy Club itself. Obviously was an assistant there way back before the North Melbourne job. So, yeah, there's they're the two names out there at the moment. It'll be a wide search, and with Graham Wright in charge now, it's going to be thorough, obviously.
The role of the senior coach has definitely changed, though, hasn't it? Because to your point, not everyone may like Sam Mitchell. He doesn't care from what you've just said, but it's not about being just so much respected anymore. It is about the relationships you build. You become almost that soccer mould of being a manager. You manage the younger kids because the generations have changed. We've got young kids now who, you can't just go and give the old-fashioned cook to because they'll take it the wrong way. So if you are that person who struggles to be able to adapt and be able to build relationships with different types of people who are different to yourself, it makes it very hard, I think, to be a senior coach and a good one.
I don't think you have to be necessarily liked, but you have to be respected. And I've always felt that there's got to be a little bit of that fear factor there. That, for me, there does. So certainly there's some senior coaches out there that I don't think have a lot of that.
Are you saying this, Duck, because we're talking about Sam Mitchell? Are you referring some of these comments to Sam Mitchell?
I'm saying
as an observer.
I'm just saying as an observer. I don't know. One, I'm not on the inner sanctum, and I've never heard him speak. I don't know what sort of presence he has as a coach at all. Certainly know that he had a great footy brain, et cetera, and he's always wanted to do this job. So I assume he's got all of those boxes ticked. But the relationship part of it is what I have a question mark over him about, because he hasn't done it for long enough for that to be answered for me.
Well, you go back over history, don't you? I mean, the great coaches started young at some stage. I mean, Lee Matthews was young, Mick Malthouse was young, and I know that what you're saying, he in 2021, is he too young? And look, he probably is in many people's eyes, but he's got a seat at the table if he wants it, and that seat at the table is just having a conversation to start with.
Yep. So those coaches, they start young, they become great coaches, but not generally at the club they start at? So
Well, Lee Matthews got there, didn't he? It took a time. It took a few years.
But so are the Pies in that position where they can say, hey, we'll give you the reins and it's going to be for a minimum of 5 years? Because we all know what that football club's like in terms of how big they are. If he goes in and they don't have the success straight away or there's no growth coming up.
I will say if he was to take a job, I'd be taking Collingwood over Hawthorn only because he's following he's following in the path of Alistair Clarkson and I don't see how there's any upside for him there.
Back to your point, I feel that Collingwood at the outset of this wants to go down the younger coach path because of the list demographic. And there's been some changes this year. There's been 7 players given a first game of footy this year. And that's all part, I believe, of what they're about to embark upon.
Well, if it is, it'll be risky because not many coaches these days get a second chance. It takes a long time for them to get a second look at it. So you'd want to make a good fist of it if he did get the job. Damo, also part of the news this week, certainly the big part of it has been the COVID situation and the chaos with the clubs and the fixture.
Joey, as best we can tell, there's going to be a hub of sorts for the remainder of the season. And for some reason, and it does relate to the CBA, I believe, and also undertakings given verbally about there being no hub and if there was going to be one, it being a last resort. But it's here now. I mean, it's factually here, given that there's now 16 teams, as we speak, out of the 18 based here in Melbourne. So, and as we speak, there's a drama unfolding in South Australia with COVID there as well. And there could be a development on that state, even beyond this conversation right now. And by close of play today, they are the only 2 clubs, Duck, who are currently getting to sleep in their own beds every night. So, in terms of the non-Victorian clubs. So, what it looks like beyond round 16, no one knows. It won't be a frenzy in terms of jamming games in, but there could be games every day as a potential just to get through the games. And the round 17 through to 23, how it looks, the AFL does not know how it's going to look from
Tell you what
from
it
this
is.
weekend.
It's a tipster's nightmare because we've got to put our tips in. We've got to put our tips in today.
The big issues.
Well, we've got to put our tips in today, and we don't know whether they're playing at Geelong or where they're playing. Some of these sides, well, hey, come on, some of our reputations hang on these tips.
Do they?
Joey?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Very important.
So, Damo, if there is that sort of consideration from the Players Association and from the AFL about not letting these players stay in hubs for too long, does that bring, though, to the point they might try and squeeze in a few more rounds early just to get them home and have banked, say, an extra 3 or 4 games?
Possibly, but because of the change back to 20 minutes plus time on, there was an undertaking given that they wouldn't jam games in. And I'm a big believer in what they did last year was very clever. When before round 1, they reduced the season to 17 matches only and reduced the time to 16 plus time on. They then were able to resume after the shutdown with those as the rules. This year, it was 22 matches over 23 weeks and 20 minutes plus time on. But they can't change that now. And some people over the course of the weekend suggested they could and should. Well, they won't be because they've already had double-ups too.
Who suggested that?
Oh, there was some commentary in media that they might do that. They can't do that because the
the
laws of the game have to finish the way they started.
Exactly right.
So they're locked into the 22 matches. To your point, Joey, the undertakings of the AFL that it was absolute last resort scenario. We're at last resort now. So the hubs are in. The hub is in.
So it could almost be the AFL saying to the players, sorry. Our intention was to try and get you back after 2 or 3 weeks, but unfortunately, the way it is, you have to spend Sydney, GWS, whoever it is, you have to spend 5 or 6 weeks in Melbourne.
Unless they reset and prolong the season, which no one wants that to happen either. So.
You said be serious about it. I think once again we're jumping. And yes, it's a big situation. Yes, we've got all the clubs come to Melbourne, and who would have thought that all the clubs would be here, Damo? Because it was only 2 weeks ago that you were saying that this was going to happen in
Here we go.
in Perth.
Duck, what's your issue with where the grand final's going to be played? It's a big talking point.
Why are we talking about it? Why are we talking about it now?
What if it's not at the MCG?
What if there's a lot of what ifs?
There are, Duck. There's no games in Melbourne again this weekend.
So let's talk about it when it becomes an if or a what if.
No, it is an if now,
It's
Duck.
not an if now because we don't know where we're going to be in 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks in this state. We know where the other states are, but we don't know where we're going to be. Let's be honest. We're coming out of lockdown maybe in the next 24 hours.
The reason
into a bigger cage, and we're going to maybe have crowds this week or next week, Damos. But you want to already talk about Perth and Adelaide?
The reason we had
you
to
hate
react.
Perth, is that what you're saying?
No, I love Optus Stadium. I love Perth and I love Adelaide, and those 2 states would be wonderful if we had cases in 3 months' time. time.
Very
Oh,
good.
boy,
Very good.
oh,
Well
boy,
done,
boy.
Duck. You were onto it.
Tip of the
You
cap
did.
to that.
And that is why I'm going to say right now, Damo, let's not jump the gun. Let's not talk up. Let's not go into it. Let's not make a big kerfuffle about it. Because in 3 weeks' time,
on your theory,
West Coast and Fremantle might be back in Perth. Brisbane might be back in Brisbane. Adelaide Crows and Port Adelaide will be back in Adelaide.
are you
And guess
talking
what?
about Brian
And the
Taylor?
grand final will be back at the MCG. Look, I know that the news, and we've got to have something to report. We're all in the industry, and I know we do, but I do think that given how fluid this situation is, we do get caught up, like you did a couple of weeks
there's
ago.
16 teams in Melbourne.
You said, Duck, you said this last year.
So let's ignore it.
Okay.
Let's ignore it.
So
Let's
where's the grand final going to be played?
got
You said
no idea.
You said it was off the stadium 3 weeks ago.
We talked about it, Duck.
No, you were saying, Duck, it's a real chance.
Now,
It's going
don't
to be at Optus
misrepresent what I
Stadium.
said on that, Duck. I
You said
understand
it was
what you're
going to be a
saying.
real chance. It was at
Joey,
Optus
can
Stadium.
we delete the last 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Because there's not 16 teams in Melbourne at the moment, and we'll just go back to
There is
the
six-
fixture. The
there is
fixture as it
16
stands.
teams here, and yes, right now, over the next few weeks, like we have, and let's be honest, Damo, I'm prepared to say, yes, we have had mini hubs already this year, right from the start, when Brisbane had spent 3 weeks here
Yeah, they did.
at the start of the year.
Well, that
And
wasn't a hub. They were here.
No, but well, mini hub for them. I'm talking about for that particular team, not a hub as in all the teams. But yes, so we've had to play on the move, and we've done that. We're doing the same now. I just think that like I said, I'm a glass half full, and I have been all the way through it. I'm prepared to say that we'll get through this. Those states will do the right thing. Some of the states have got onto it very early. Let's be honest, Adelaide and Perth have got 2 cases in the whole state. I mean, it shouldn't take long for that to open up again, especially to Melbourne. If we continue to do what we're doing here, then all of a sudden it's only Sydney, New South Wales, and all of a sudden what you're talking about now changes completely again in 2 weeks' time. So that's why I don't think...
I don't know what your point is, though, Doug.
My point is we don't have to make a massive deal of it being in a
It
hub.
is a
and
massive
the
deal.
AFL,
There's
the
16
competition's
clubs in
going into
Melbourne right
close down.
now.
Clubs going into close down. We might have to extend the season. We're, shortening quarters and all of this crap.
Who's talking about that?
Well, those other journos that you said before.
Well, look, there's still plenty to play out. And as Duck's saying, we don't know what it's going to look like. Damo, you've got to at least throw it out there so we've got some idea of what it potentially might
we're
look
dealing
like
with what's in front of
right
us.
now. Yeah.
This is extraordinary yet again. It's
Don't
another
over-
set
well-
of extraordinary
well,
circumstances.
Just like our government, let's not overreact.
And on Duck's point, we'll go to a break, and after this, we'll get Duck's opinion on the Duck Dive Top 5. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, and it's now time for this. Right.
On the Midweek Rub, it's time for Duck Dive
I'm good from the waist down.
Quick 5.
Duck Dive Quick 5. Daisy just passed me a note, wanted me to ask where you think the grand final will be played.
Do you think Perth's a good fit? What do you
let's
think we
not-
should go to Sydney or
I'm
Adelaide?
thinking Cardinia Park.
Maybe
Dream
Tassie.
HBA. Hey?
Tassie might host the
Oh,
grand
Tassie.
final.
No, Tassie.
Hey,
It'll be
Ballarat.
at the G.
hey. All right, speaking of
That's
bringing...
what I'm predicting.
Speaking of bringing up some old audio, these first 2 questions are you, Duck. At the start of the year, I asked you who you thought would be the best key forward by the end of the year, and you said Tom Lynch. I'm giving you a chance.
Did I say
You
Tom
said
Lynch?
Tom Lynch. I'm giving you a chance to change your opinion now.
Hang on.
Who's the
Out
best
of
key
who?
forward?
Who else did you give me?
I gave you the
Out of
whole
those-
competition.
Did you?
Yeah, and you said Tom Lynch.
I thought he was going to bounce back.
Yeah, who's the
He's had
best
some
key
injuries.
forward in the competition?
The best key forward, it's got to be Norton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be Norton. I think the way he attacks the footy in the air, his recovery, he puts on pressure as well. He did get a bath from Wiedering though when they played Carlton. He played him very well, Wiedering, in a one-on-one situation, but he's a ripper.
I did see, Daisy, some comparisons to Duck in somewhere today with Aaron Norton at his age, 21, doing what he's doing. Hey,
All-Australian captain.
Duck
Is he
had,
going to be?
Duck had about 112 goals after the same amount of games. In fact, I think it was more than 112 goals after 67 games.
And
Duck,
half of that, it's an half back
yeah,
as
so
well.
it's not
Damo.
quite close. Hey, next question, too. I'm going to have to go with you again. Last week, I asked you who you thought could win the flag. You said the West Coast Eagles. Just wondering whether you'd like to have a second opinion, a second crack at
He
that
thought
one.
the grand final was going to be played in Perth, I think.
I
Do
tell
you
you
want to stick with the Eagles after what you
I'll tell
saw on the
what, I tell
weekend?
you what, and I know they've been moved out of home, and they don't like travelling and everything else, and they may have to play down at down at the Cattery. I'm sticking with West Coast. I think they've got the quality. They've got the quality there. They've brought a lot back in at the one time, which is always a danger.
Yep.
I reckon they can build on that. They are one team that even if they finish out of the 4, a bit like Richmond, if they finish out, if they make the 8, just like Richmond, then I think that they can do some damage out of the top 4.
Gee whiz, very good. Question 3, do you think it's time Melbourne played Ben Brown? Or do you believe they should stick with the formula they've got at the moment? With McDonald, Fritsch and Jackson.
Yes, I would stick to that formula at the moment. I did see a part of the VFL last week while I was actually working and saw it in the back. I reckon, what did he kick?
Kick 5.
Kick 5. 3 of them were Joe the Gooses, one off the ground, 2 running into open goals. So you've got to look at the quality. I mean, you know yourself, you can kick goals. You can kick 4 or 5 goals in a game and come off disappointed.
Yep.
And know that you haven't had a great game. And what I mean by that is really strong marks, go back in difficult situations and kick goals.
Spot on. I did a VFL game earlier in the year with Jamara Ugle-Hagan, kicked 5 goals. And the talk in the paper was, geez, he's kicked 5, but I called that game. They weren't 5 impressive goals. I think 3 of them were handball receives in the goal square. So you're right. You can kick 5 and it looks good, but not necessarily play a great game of footy.
I think he's got a part to play.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that.
They
I think there's a part to play at some stage.
But is it
at the right time.
when do you want to do it though? They're 2 games clear on top. Is now the time
it'll be horses.
to try that?
It'll be horses and courses depending on who they play, conditions, all sorts of things.
They've got the option though, and the luxury now being that 2 games clear of the chasing pack in second, third and fourth, I should say.
But Wiedemann's ahead of him.
Still, after Wiedemann's 5 games, he played 5 games. Wiedemann kicked 3 goals.
And he didn't get a kick in his last game.
And he got dropped for form. Yeah. But I still think that they think Wiedemann's ahead of Brown.
Good. Question 4. I haven't got your thoughts on this yet. I want to ask you, what's your thoughts on the state of the umpiring in season 2021?
Inconsistent.
Yeah.
And I don't blame the umpires. I blame the people above them because I think their messaging, for whatever reason, has been inconsistent. We often blame the umpires, a bit like we blame the contract tracers. For COVID, but it's not. It's a lot of it's not their fault. Yep. So I don't blame the umpires, but they have been inconsistent, and because of the messaging.
Do you ask that question because you're not convinced about their operations?
I think the umpiring, their standards need significant lifting. I think the other issue too for me is I think we need education as fans and media on what they are looking for with the holding the ball. Some of the holding the ball stuff, especially in the Melbourne-Essendon game, fans were going on about incorrect disposal, but not understanding you have to have prior opportunity before it's incorrect disposal. And I think that's adding to the frustration of fans is people not even knowing the rules themselves. I would like to see, we haven't seen it anymore, umpires come out, whether it's on a weekly basis or an umpiring boss or someone, give the fans some education on some decisions. Why not have it Tuesday night where 5 decisions, can you explain what the thought process, I think we need to educate the fans and educate the media a bit more on some of the decisions, because I think even some media commentators are confusing the situation by their own interpretations of what free kicks are without actually knowing the rules.
Well, that's the beauty of being when you are a player. They come out over the preseason, they say, these are the rule changes, example 1, give it, play that, this is what it's going to look like this season. So the players obviously are informed of it, but anyone commentating or watching it then, as you say, has no
But in season it changes as well. It's changed now from what it was at the start of the year.
From week to week, from game to game, from year to year, we have this conversation. We've been having this conversation forever.
Yeah. And last one, we spoke about off the top, Collingwood, their coaching search, and Luke Ball's joined the committee. Just asking you, have you ever been asked to join a coaching panel committee? And if you were asked, would you do it?
Coaching panel committee?
No,
not one of those. Not one of those committees. I haven't. No.
Would you do it if someone asked? If someone
they bypass asking to be part of a committee. They just asking to coach the club.
I know. I saw that.
2008. North Melbourne, coaching North Melbourne.
No,
wouldn't do it.
No, I wouldn't do it. Doesn't interest me.
Daisy, if someone asked
a bit like
you,
sitting on panels, panels to pick teams and squads.
You don't. No, yeah.
What about the folding? If the folding comes, Duck, could you be bought?
You can always be bought.
Would you do it if you were asked?
Yeah, I'd sit on a panel and give my 2 cents worth for whatever that is worth. Yep. Probably more aligned to maybe selecting captains of footy trips rather than captains of football clubs and coaches. But I would certainly love to. Different views is what you need, though, because you get all these.
Ball's a great appointment.
Luke Ball is a great appointment, but you don't want too many of the same like-minded, boring, stiff people picking the people because who do they go for? They go for the safe, boring option, and then that person comes in and coaches safe and boring, and I'm starting to talk like Duck.
Who talks like BT at times.
Just when I'm trying to get a point across.
Got it. Now, as we take a look at the games going forward, and this weekend, the big round 16 games, we always go back and take a look at our certainties. Daisy, you weren't here, but in your place, Billy tipped Port Adelaide
so that's a win for
to defeat the Swans, so that's a win for you. Duck, you went with Melbourne to beat Essendon.
Yeah, that was a big game. In good form.
Yeah, top of the ladder. I took the Kangaroos to beat the Gold Coast Suns. I was loving the way the Kangaroos had been playing the last 5 or 6 weeks. And
Will you take him again
Damo,
this
who
week?
generally takes it pretty conservatively, let's take a listen to who he tipped. Damo, which game would you like to look at?
Let's have a look at the Eagles and Dogs game. We try and sort of choose a game that's not obvious, and I'm going to go with Ducks now premiership favoured team, the Eagles on that one.
So the West Coast Eagles, and then I saw on Monday you were quite scathing of the West Coast Eagles.
I've written them off.
You have written them off, yeah.
I didn't like what I saw.
Bit of a soft underbelly.
Yeah, and I think I may have read too much into their win against Carlton when they were undermanned, and then their win the following week against Richmond, which may not be as impressive as it appeared to be at that point in time.
Talking about people writing teams off, there's obviously a few people that have put a line through Richmond now. A few so-called, well, this is how Damien Hardwick.
I was going to ask you in my duck dive and I left it out.
So-called experts. I mean,
what do you think?
Do you think Dimmer, like, he obviously got asked the question. He said a couple of experts have put a line through you this year, and Dimmer said, be careful about who you call experts. Now, a few years ago, Dimmer wouldn't make those comments. I just think he's falling into making little comments about, and I think it was Kane Corns and Lloydie. I think it might have been Lloydie or a couple of others have said he doesn't think they can win it. But the fact that he has to say, I wouldn't call them experts.
Yeah,
right.
You brought this up a few weeks ago,
little
didn't
things.
you? Yeah.
I don't know, just delving in.
It's an interesting observation of a man who hasn't bought into that style and side of his media. Yeah.
I was with you a bit on this a few weeks ago when he sort of criticised the umpires in the interview with Luke Hodge at quarter time, and I was saying, whatever. And then upon reflection, I was like, you know what? I like it when a coach isn't just vanilla, like I just said before. So I almost retract on that. I like the fact that he's clipping people, because what else do you want from him and his football clubs over the past 4 years to not say that they will be a genuine contender at some point? They're too good, and they've shown that they're too good just to say now flippantly, we can write them off because of a so-called expert. So I don't mind that from Dimmer, and especially if it's clipping Kane Corns, I like it even more.
All right, well then, speaking of that then, Daisy, you can kick off with the new ball. The games this week, which one do you want to take a look at?
I'm going to go, and I always go with something a little bit, that people might not. I'm going to go with Western Bulldogs to beat North Melbourne at Marvel.
Oh, Daisy.
Well, they did meet earlier in the year, and Western Bulldogs. It was 127.
A game in a lot of percentage clear of third.
127 points they won by, so I will take them.
Damo, which game do you want to take a look at?
I'm going to go with the Cats to bounce back against Essendon on Friday night.
Yeah, at home. They should be too. Are you loving the way Essendon are playing their football though this year?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. But they need to get a win, and I'm not sure they're capable of getting that win that they desperately need against a good team. And Geelong needs, in the context of this season, a win more than Essendon to try and keep in touch with the top four.
That's okay. If the Bombers don't make the 8 this year, just know the stats say there is always one team every year that jumps from outside the 8 into the top 4 the following year. Could be the Bombers next year. It was Melbourne this year. They missed the finals. They're on top of the ladder. There's always one team. Could be Essendon next season. Duck, what game do you like?
I'm going to go in a big game, Burgoyne's 400th. I'm going to go with Port Adelaide to beat Hawthorn. And everyone's saying, well, obviously he's playing for Hawthorn at the moment, playing in his 400th, and it's great he's playing against his old club. But this club would be saying he's part of us as well.
Yep.
Started his career with us, premiership player with us. All of the above, and I think that'll be enough to get them over the line against the Hawks, and they need to get over the line if they want to finish top 4.
Just beware of the Hawks. Their form since the bye is off the charts. Their defence is amazing. What Clarko's done at the bye when they focused on their team defence, it's gone to a completely another level. I think they're going to be the party poopers on the run home, the Hawks. They're going to beat a lot of top 8 teams.
So you're tipping them against Port? Or?
I am very, very close to tipping them, I think they can beat Port.
Well, are you beating?
Okay, yes, I will. I'm tipping the Hawks. It's not my certainty. It's not my certainty, but I'll be tipping the Hawks to beat Port Adelaide.
Nice.
I will then take Fremantle to beat Carlton. I think the Dockers are playing some really good footy.
Is that in Tassie?
We don't know where it is yet, do we? Is it most likely going to be Tassie?
As we speak, most likely
Freo to Tassie, mate.
Yes.
You know the old polar bear.
Oh, you reckon that applies to Freo as well?
They're going
Brisbane nearly lost the Kangaroos over there.
Up there, down to Tassie.
Yep.
You reckon Freo will like that?
Yep. Love it. They'll love it.
Do you know what animals are in the Perth
will beat
Zoo?
Freo. Hey?
Do you know what animals are in the Perth Zoo?
Don't ask him.
No, I haven't been to the Perth Zoo.
Don't set him off
I
again.
assume some lions.
Hey, very good show. Been quite fiery today. I've liked it from Duck, but he's got to get out of here. He's got a meeting to go to. Damo, I know you're busy. Thank you. Daisy, you've got a big week. And, of course, you'll be doing Thursday night footy for Triple M. You'll be there as well, Duck.
Yes.
With Ash Chewer. BT calling it. That's going to be the Gold Coast
be a ripper.
Richmond game now from Marvel. Looking forward to it. It's been a great show. Thanks for joining us, and we'll do it all again next Wednesday on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub.